We will get started in about 4 minutes at 7:30 Central Time. Hi, Angelina. Good to see you. Welcoming you guys from my home office. And I am very, very excited to share with you guys about this training that has truly, truly impacted a lot of people. I have been giving speeches for many years in small realms at conventions, different types of companies, and I have to say that this particular training that I delivered this weekend in Idaho Falls, Idaho, has truly been received by so many people that have reached out to me and said, hi kids, have said, life-changing. This is totally going to change my life. I'm going to apply this principle and I'm going to continue to practice the skill of becoming a master over my emotions. So I thought, you know what, if it's that powerful and if people are embracing it so much, why not share it with the world? Because we're just in the beginning stages. Hi everyone, we're just in the beginning stages of 2017. And I think everybody's in a place that wants to make better changes. You know, we all want to be the better me, if we're really honest with each other, whether it is as a parent or even my kids are on here. That's awesome. Hi, Julia. Hi, Reagan. So whether it is as a parent, as a business owner, you know, as an employer, as an employee, as a spouse, I think that if you really listen carefully, and if you're going to take this message and you choose to practice it daily, it will rock your world. And I am so excited to share it with you. And I hope that you will comment, like, and share, because this can truly change so many people's lives. It is so simple, but I believe that God Yahweh gave me a picture back a year ago when we were starting to go through some big changes, and it has really impacted our lives in a really, really big way. So we're going to wait 1 more minute. I said we're going to start at 7:30 Central Time, so I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to get their notification that we're starting, and I will get started, and then you can take this message and you can share it and you can train on it, whatever you want to do whatever you like, because I have been using this system that I'm going to share with you here tonight on myself and with my children and with my team for the last year, and it has been completely transforming our lives. It has transformed me as a person, it has transformed my business partners, and we're using it in our home all the time. So if you want to have a life that is it's not going to be run by emotions, and where you feel like, oh my gosh, life is just so busy, or life is just happening, I can't deal with one more thing, then I believe this message is going to really empower you. All right, you guys, it is 7:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn my notifications off here. And so I'm going to use a couple of words here today, and I'm saying them because I'm very visual. I really think with pictures, and I think that's how God speaks to me, with pictures. When I pray for something, when I pray for wisdom, He just gives me pictures, and somehow it makes sense to me, and I'm able to then turn it into words and share it with others. So I'm really hoping and praying that this message is going to really help you. And not just you, but hopefully also in your family and with your friends and business partners as well. So we're going to call this right here the waiting room, okay? And as I'm going to go through and train and teach you on this message, I want you to remember when I say the waiting room, it's really what comes towards us as life happens. And it can be from kids misbehaving, it could be a bad day at work, it could be, you know, a month not going really well in your business. All kinds of things could all of a sudden happen to you that we're just not in control of. And the question is, will you allow these emotions to run you for the next day, 2, or even longer? Or are you going to really apply this method that I'm going to give you today? So first and foremost, you want to really learn to identify feelings and emotions. And really what I'm asking you to do today is also, what do you want 2017 to be? Have you sat down and set some goals in your life? Have you really thought about what 2017 is going to be for you? Is this going to be another year that's just going to be one of those years? Thankfully, it's over. Or are you going to stop and think about 2017 when it's over, where you can honestly say, that was the best year. I really, really made some changes. I set goals, I went after it, and I didn't let life stop me. Well, that is only going to happen if you're going to make conscious decisions today. And I'm going to teach you how you can do that. With that, I'm actually going to have to take you back a year ago and help you understand where our lives were at. And also, to bring credibility to this training, I'm going to share with you how our year went and how I was able to use this system that I'm going to teach you today. By the way, everyone can do it. You don't need to have a school degree or anything else in order to practice this. So January 2016, we were in the middle of a teenage adoption, actually 2 teenagers. We have 2 biological children, and they were in the process of finishing their last year of school and heading into college, so we were hoping. And life was really tough. We had just moved from overseas to Texas. Financially, we were in a really tough place, and we were invited to a business meeting, the company that I work for independently. And we were given an opportunity, a challenge to take up that day. And we had to commit to it. And if we committed to it, we had to really go for it. We had to put our name on paper, and there was some money involved. And so I remembered sitting there, and maybe you are right now sitting in front of a decision, a promotion, maybe a job change, maybe college change, maybe should I go back to school? You know, we're always standing in front of decisions. And the question is, what are you going to do? So here I was, having to make a decision. And I knew in my heart, 2016 is going to be a crazy year. Lots of unknowns, lots of things that were coming our way that I knew that if I didn't make a decision that was wholeheartedly and that I was going to commit to, and on top of that, learn to become a master over my emotions, it would not have been a good year. So to make a long story short, we committed to it. We said yes. The next week, we flew overseas to Ukraine. We went and had court for adoption, came back. I started working my business, preparing for our teenagers to come home, and life began to happen. How many times in your life have you made a decision or been part of a decision, and in the next 48 hours, all of a sudden, life begins to happen? Now, what I want you to really think about is this. How wholeheartedly are you making your decisions? Are you giving yourself exit routes? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to commit to becoming better at what you're doing? Are you committed to actually investing into yourself? Or are you constantly allowing life to just happen and you're the victim of life? Well, last year, I decided that wasn't going to be me. So I committed to 1 year of no exit routes. I was going to do whatever it took to make sure I finish my year very strong, especially in my business, because we depended on that financially. 1 year of daily activity. So if you're working for yourself, are you making that commitment of working every single day, doing the income producing activity that will bring you success? Or are you scrolling through Facebook and social media and just kind of letting life happen? 1 year of no excuses. Many of you have decided to take the detox challenge with me and my coaches. Well, are you starting to make excuses? Is life happening already? Or are you willing to stick with it? And 1 year of learning how to handle my emotions. So I'm going to give you in a nutshell what happened in 2016. Now I want you yourself to just pause a little bit, and I want you to think about what happened in 2016 in my life with emotions and life that stopped me. What happened in your life? Let me know. Go ahead and chat in there. What stopped you from reaching your goals in 2016? What emotional drama or trauma happened to you that is holding you back, or maybe even currently holding you back? So for us, we traveled twice overseas to Ukraine. We added 3 teenagers to our family, 2 adoption, 1 foster. 2 of our kids finished high school and we had to get them started into college. That in itself can stop someone completely. We dealt with troubled teens. Somebody saying fear. Tanya, make sure I get back to you on that one because I'm going to end this teaching on how to actually dissect fear, and I'm going to give you a whole new word for it, and you might be surprised how much this word actually is not true. I had personal health concerns. In October, I was diagnosed with a tumor in my breast. Can that stop you and slow you down with your business, with your work, or whatever else you're doing? That can be paralyzing. Well, not for me. However, I'm going to teach you why this did not happen. Now, in that whole year, having all this trauma happening in our life, in my own personal business, I had my very best year ever in 10 years. We more than doubled our income. We grew with our business, and I built my business and continued to be a mom with my children with a smile on my face. How could that possibly happen? Well, you have to learn to become a master over your emotions. So let's go there right now. I want you to think about your brain. So this is your waiting room. This is where everything is happening. So stuff is happening and coming your way all the time. You cannot control what happens. I cannot control sitting in an airplane and it almost going down. I can't control that. Can I control if there is a tumor growing in my breast? I can't control that. Can I control if children are misbehaving? No. But what I can control is how do I deal with this stuff. If you're going to apply this, what I'm going to teach you here in just a minute, you will actually learn how to live in the moment. How many of you right now, if you're really honest with yourself, live in the past or in the future, and you're never really living in the moment? You're constantly dealing with regret or planning in the future, hoping one day, and yet in the moment, you're letting emotions drive you. If you're really honest, how many of you would say, yes, that's me? I'm kind of going through the motions. I'm kind of not really there. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about your brain having a filing system, okay? Lots of drawers in there. Now you get to decide how many drawers, and you get to decide what the name of that drawer is, okay? So follow me along on this. My brain has a lot of drawers, and I'm going to share with you what they look like. So I want you to picture an office, okay? And a lot of paperwork is piled up on the table, on the desk besides yourself. As a matter of fact, on the floor even. As you're walking in, you can barely step in. Now, how many people would get really excited to open up that door and say, I can't wait to get started with my work today. Yes, I'm so excited to get going. I think all of us would look at that and go, oh my gosh, no, not dealing with that. Shut the door. How many of you would say today, you know what? That is what my waiting room looks like. It is so full of stuff. It's so full of emotions. It's so full of undealt things. Things from my past, things from last week, things from today. And it's just sitting and piling and piling. And then there's triggers that are happening. And these triggers make us behave a certain way that many of us are not proud of, and they can compromise relationships. So instead of having that crazy waiting room full of stuff, I'm going to teach you how to clean it up and have an office that looks absolutely beautifully organized and that you can walk in and enjoy actually living and working in. So how do you do it? First of all, you have to decide this is what you want to do. Just because the system exists doesn't mean it's going to work for you unless you decide you really want to do this. You have to commit to practicing it. You're not going to become a master overnight. You got to commit to practicing it. If you teach it to your spouse and your children, it's going to become a very fun thing in your home because you're going to hold each other accountable to it. And then as life happens, you've got to deal with it immediately. And then you want to turn around and teach others how to do it. So I'm going to teach you from one day in my life, just recently, how I was able to use my filing system effectively. And I'm going to show you how you can do it as well. So remember, as life begins to happen, it enters your waiting room. So right now, everyone has got to decide, how full is my waiting room? And where am I going to file away all of this stuff? Okay, so my day began. I had a pretty good morning. I was doing my work. Things were going well. At 2:30, I have to go pick up my teenagers from school, the ones that are still at high school. Now, in our school area, there is a no stopping zone. Not even no parking. It is a no stopping zone because there are really hundreds, if not thousands of cars coming and picking up their children. Now, in the past, I've totally gotten away with just pulling up my car on the top of the hill. When I see my kids, I come driving down, I stop really quick, they jump in the car and off we go. Not on this day. This was the 30th of November, and I was waiting on the side, and I was driving up as I saw my kids coming. I stopped my car, they jumped in, and as I started to drive, I saw the blue lights in the back, and I thought, okay, great, busted. So in that moment, I really had to stop because remember, we're learning how to deal with emotions as life begins to happen immediately. So I'm sitting there and waiting, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to deal with this? First of all, I had to recognize I was at fault. There's a sign, I'm at fault, and I have to now pay for it. Now, my kids in the car, they were like, oh my gosh, that's not fair. You didn't really, you didn't speed. And I turned around, I told my kids, listen, I broke the rule. I broke the law. I have to pay, lesson learned. So I taught them a lesson. I rolled down my window. The police officer came in. I smiled at him. And I told him, like, okay, I'm busted. My fault. I didn't quite get the whole no stopping sign, but hey, this is my fault. I think he was really surprised how kind I was taking my ticket. So remember what I just did. I dealt with it. And guess what drawer I filed this in? My fault, lesson learned. It went into my lesson learned file. Now, will I stop at that sign again? No. Why would I? Because I don't want to pay $60 again. But because I filed it away immediately, I was ready for the next life thing that took about 3 seconds later to happen. So as I'm driving away, just picture this, right? My newly adopted son hands me a piece of paper, and it's a suspension from school. 3-day out of school suspension for something I rather not share publicly. And I read the letter and I was just looking at it and I'm thinking, no, you did not. I said, did this really happen? He said, yes. And so I had to think about it for a moment. But remember, I already filed my ticket away. It's already gone. I'm not angry about it. I'm not sitting on it. My waiting room was empty. I could deal with it right in the moment. So I didn't say anything. I just kind of let it sit there. And then I thought about it. Okay, this doesn't reflect me as a mom. I didn't do what he did. And now he has to really carry the consequences of what he did. And guess what I did? I filed it in the Ryan drawer. This is his problem. It's not my problem. He's a 15-year-old boy that knows what he did, and he has to carry the consequences. So guess what I did? As I'm driving away, I'm mentally opening up the drawer, filing it away in Ryan's drawer. I'm shutting it. And as I talked to the principal, I was calm as a cucumber. I listened to what he had to say, and it was done. And it was gone. I filed it away. Well, that day happened to be the previous day to the last day. And that particular month, my business wasn't doing so well. If you work for yourself, you know how that goes. There's going to be great days and there's going to be not such great days. And I'm going to tell you a really honest thing here. Anything about me, I'll be very honest and I'll be very blunt. Starting to work for myself when things didn't go so well, it used to really rock my emotional boat. And I would not be the kindest mom in the house. And I would get anxious and I would feel like a failure and I would feel, there's stuff not happening right. And all of a sudden there's all of this anxiety that would build up around me. And it would affect my family for days. And a few days later, I maybe have dealt with it already, but they haven't because I was not the kindest person to be around. So what I decided in January to do, I have to create a folder or file, a drawer for these days. And so as my business wasn't doing so well, guess what drawer it went into? It's part of the business. Understanding and knowing business is really important, having the right expectations. So as my day didn't go so well, it actually went kind of down, I opened up the drawer and I just filed it as been paid on, file it away, and I was able to still work extremely well with my team, had joy in my heart because I dealt with it and I really could actually smile over it. So filed away. Now, this was already a pretty hefty day, and I want you to follow this with me because what if I hadn't dealt with the first one, upon the second, upon the third, and now 11:30 at night came around. I was just about to climb into bed, and the phone rang, and it was our oldest son, Noah. Now, he's kind of like our, I wouldn't say a perfect child, but he just kind of goes by the rules. So I was very surprised to get a phone call from him that late, and he said he was caught speeding, criminal speed, 31 over the speed limit, and the ticket would be huge. So here's what happened, and this is where you really, really want to pay attention. As he was sharing that with me, my waiting room was completely empty. I had dealt with my ticket, I dealt with my other son's issues, I dealt with my business that day. My waiting room was empty to now deal with what was happening with Noah. Now, had I not dealt with all of that stuff, what do you think would have happened? I would have probably lashed out on him. I would have probably been like, I can't believe you did this. And my wrath of the day would have been on Noah. If you've ever done that, please listen to me. How many people in your life have been the recipient of your wrath because you hadn't dealt with all this stuff that has been building and building and building, and there's a trigger point, and all of a sudden there's a blow up, and that person is now receiving the wrath of your day. If you have children, you probably understand what I'm saying here. But however, my waiting room was dealt with. All of the files were filed away, and so in that moment, I was able to give Noah total encouragement. And I said to him, I said, honey, you know what? This is going to be a very expensive ticket and you're going to have to pay for it, but I am really glad you're okay. And I really, really hope that you learned from this lesson. And he said, Mom, you know what? I came off the exit and I didn't see the sign and I escalated and there was the cop. And I said, sweetheart, it happens to all of us. Hopefully you learned your lesson. That night, I went to bed, all emotions dealt with, and I felt good about every single situation. I didn't have this emotional baggage weighing down on me. And there's so many people that can't sleep at night because they're dealing with all this stuff, all these little things that are piling and piling and piling, and you have this office that is completely out of control. All of the stuff is funneling up, and you don't know why you're so miserable. And you don't know why you're triggering like this to your little toddler that maybe didn't pick up his toys, and all of a sudden all your frustration comes out on that little person because all this other stuff has been piled up in. How many times have you done that? I promise you, if you're learning how to deal with the emotion in the moment and you begin to file it away mentally, literally, if you have to close your eyes and open up that drawer and put it away, you will be amazed how much you can actually handle and how much you're able to live in the moment. Here's what happened that night with Noah. No frustration, no lashing out on him. Now, what if I did? I would have felt guilty that night. Our relationship would have been compromised. Do you think I could have gone next morning at 8:30? I always do an accountability call with my team. Do you think I could be cheerful and happy as I would enter that call? No, I would have been thinking about how I hurt my son that night. And now what happens? I'm piling on top of that emotion. Do you think I could pay attention to my business partners and help them with their stuff? No, because now all this other stuff is piling up. Now think about day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Think about how heavy your waiting room is possibly right now because you're not dealing with stuff. You're just piling things upon piling things. I taught this system to another business partner of mine, and she was having a really, really bad day. And I said, listen, sweetheart, let me teach you something. I really can't go into much detail because I'm training on this at the launch event, but I want to teach you the simplicity of the filing system. Walked her through it. She said, Irma, this is brilliant. I'm going to apply it today. She dealt with the situation. She actually dealt with quite a bit of stuff. The next day she called me and she said, you're not going to believe what happened. Last night I woke up from a nightmare. And I didn't realize it was from 7 years ago, stuff that I didn't clean up with my husband. But because all this other stuff was piling up on it, I didn't even realize that I hadn't dealt with it yet. And she said, guess what? I just dealt with it with him. Filed it away. It felt awesome. I feel lighter. I feel like a whole weight came off my shoulder. You guys, it is amazing what you can do when you begin to file away the emotions immediately. I've been teaching my entire team how to do it, especially those that join me on a daily basis, and they can deal with trauma and life happening, and they're not being held captive or hostage by what happened. So here's what happened. On Saturday, I gave the speech. On Sunday morning, I got on the plane on a private jet. There was just 8 of us. And literally, you guys, we experienced something that we all thought were going to come down. We were airborne in the plane. We were thrown around in the plane. I really thought this was it. This was the end of our lives. As a matter of fact, I had to get to the hospital because I got bruised up so badly. I actually thought there was internal bleeding. So remember when I said, you don't know what happens the next day. You don't know what life might throw at you. Well, as we were going through the x-rays and all of the other stuff, I had a big smile on my face, and the doctor said, gosh, you're in good cheer. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'm really grateful to be alive. So by 3 p.m., that entire incident was filed away. It was filed in my gratitude drawer that I'm alive. I didn't have a single nightmare. I didn't think about it the next time I stepped on the plane, which was just 2 days later. And I'm not afraid of flying because I can control that situation. Now, let's finish up with the emotion of fear. Many of you said, it is fear that holds me back. The emotion of fear really holds me captive. And so I'm going to actually tell you that fear is overrated. How many of you would say right now, yes, fear holds me back in my job, in my business, maybe with moving forward in something that I should be doing, but I'm afraid to do it. How many of you right now would say, yes, fear is a big issue for me. Fear is something that holds me back. Hold on a second. So I'm going to give you an analogy that you maybe have never heard. I believe that fear is actually the feeling of the unknown. Think about it. Why are so many people afraid of dying? They don't know. They don't know exactly what happens next, right? We think we know, but no one is coming back to tell us. So fear is actually the feeling of the unknown. So let's think about a woman that is preparing for her first child. She's pregnant. She's excited. She's preparing for 9 months. I remember that time. There is a baby shower that's about to happen. Exciting. And yet now the moment comes when contractions set in. If you have ever given birth and you think back to the very first child you birthed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The feeling that happens right then and there is so new and so awkward and so painful that it's totally unknown to our body. Now, what if that person, that woman decided, I am out of here. This feeling is so uncomfortable. I am out of here. She wouldn't do that because she would hurt her baby and she would hurt herself. But instead, she's going to run towards that feeling, towards her coaches, which is her doctor and her nurse, that is going to basically coach her through all of these unknown feelings. The joy, the pain, the suffering, all of that, what's going to happen. Do you remember the nurse saying, this is going to happen. It's going to go up. The pain is going to go up. Let's get breathing. And they're doing all these weird exercising and we're following along because we're being coached. Who's your coach in life? Who are you hanging around with that is helping you get through these emotions that are really just sometimes unknown? Some people want to start a new business and they say it's fear that's holding me back. And I tell you, no, it is just because it's unknown to you. This feeling of starting something new, it is really just an unknown feeling. Run towards it instead of running away from it. Why? Because running towards these unknown feelings, just like a mother about to give birth, she's going for new life. So here's what happens. What is new life for you? Is it maybe increasing your work hours, starting a business, and getting out of debt? Is it planning for a family vacation? Is it living life on purpose? What is new life meaning for you? Last year for us, it meant we could bring our kids through college, paying cash for it. It meant that we were paying off debt. But you know what? Making those decisions that I talked about early on, and then embracing this emotion of the unknown, learning how to file away these emotions as life happens. And you'll never say, life just happens, I'm too busy, because you're actually able to file it away. And you will never look at fear the same way, because when this feeling begins to happen, and it's kind of this squeezy feeling in your tummy, may I just tell you that's an awesome thing? That is when your life is about to change. That is when you're about to make a life-changing decision, and that means new life for you and your family. If you embrace these feelings, and instead of running away from it, but running towards it, just like a woman in labor, you will begin to birth new life all the time. You guys, I am here to tell you today that I believe the Maker, Yahweh God, created each one of us for greatness. I don't know if you believe that, but I do. I don't think you're here on accident in 2017 watching this teaching right now. If you have stuff to deal with, do it. Create the drawers in your brain and begin to file them away. As life happens, use your filing system. And then embrace the unknown feelings that you call fear, and then begin to run towards them. Embrace this feeling because you are about to birth new life. I believe that you and I are made for greatness. Go out there and change your life. Thanks, guys, for being here tonight. And I really hope this lesson was meaningful to you and life-changing as it has been for me and my family. Bless you. And may the Lord Yahweh keep you and bless you through the end of this year and many, many more years to come, guys. Thanks for being here tonight.